Up now, we have Forum Daily's Energy Update with Dan McTeague, president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. Take it away, Dan.
Well, thanks again for that, Nima. Again, a very interesting week. Markets are in complete retreat. And it looks like oil and gas and energy futures are really the whipping post for bad policies made by monetary enthusiasts around the world. So when the Fed makes decisions to suddenly reverse course, stop quantitative easing, and start to dramatically increase interest rates in response to fighting inflation, which they may very well have caused. Energy demand, it seems to be the target of many of the folks out there trading energy futures. Now, let's really be clear about this, Nima, because it's pretty clear to me now that the people involved with energy trades are not the folks who are physically taking stock inventory or delivering or buying physical barrels of oil or, wet barrels of gasoline, whatever the case may be. What we have here are, speculators, money managers, hedgers, who are really nervous about headlines. We saw this with the Strategic Petroleum Reserve misuse by the Biden administration. We saw this with interest rates going through the roof. And now, of course, the potential for a so-called banking crisis as a result of bond yields and many of those banks not properly protecting themselves and now hitting the sell buttons, especially energy, so that they can somehow provide liquidity. However complicated it comes down, the whipping post is in fact oil and gas, and it really shouldn't be. That's because the fundamentals are pointing to a very serious potential for undersupply in the not too distant future, if that hasn't happened already. We know that data to collect on supply, especially the Energy Information Agency, continues to change. They may very well start to recalibrate the way in which they look at demand and supply, but more importantly, it means that we could be heading for an energy crisis very rapidly once all the fear mongering and frankly the bedwetting ends. This is not going to affect demand. If anything, demand in China, demand around the world is on the increase, and the International Energy Agency and others are suggesting 102.2 million barrels used this year compared to last year's 98 million. That's about a 4% increase. No one's got spare barrels to provide, especially in a time of war. What that means is for Canadians in the week ahead is we're actually going to see prices drop. I know that we have some people on BNN and others who come up every week and try to predict gas prices. They can't even get tomorrow's gas price right. How the heck are they going to predict a week from now? What I can say is that it looks like we're going to be seeing a moderating of gasoline prices at a time in which there's an expectation that they actually increase. So British Columbia, especially the interior, look for those to drop about 3 cents a liter. Vancouver, Victoria, about 4 cents a liter. So we'll be back to $1.83, $1.84 for Vancouver, a little less for Victoria. Alberta will remain where it is, about $1.25, while Saskatchewan and Manitoba continue to see refiners and retailers pad those big fat margins. They're making about 30 cents a liter, turning gasoline into crude into gasoline. Pretty stark, and it's one of the reasons we're not seeing any movement, although we should, very much to the downside. A correction of about 8 cents a liter is certainly in order for Manitoba and for Saskatchewan. Ontario, a 3 cent decrease. So although we may hit $1.45.9 on Saturday, look for that to drop about 2 cents a liter on Sunday and remain that way pretty much most of the week, back down to about $1.42. Ditto for Quebec, which is about 16 cents a liter more expensive than Ontario and usually moves in lockstep. Maritimes, this is probably as good as it gets. They've been seeing 2 weeks of decreases in Atlantic Canada. That's bringing them back to levels that they haven't seen in a long time in the upper 140s for Nova Scotia, a little lower, a little higher for New Brunswick, a little higher for PEI, and of course 161 for the area of Newfoundland and Labrador, especially St. John's. Look for those possibly increase a penny, maybe two by next week. And watch for diesel. It's going to continue to do its downward trajectory. That's simply because we're leaving the period of time of which we call the winter demand season, heating oil, etc. What's going to be most important next week, Nima? The carbon tax. Yes, the one that everybody thinks is such a great thing you get a rebate on. Well, you're going to be looking at about a 3.5, 4 cent increase in prices come a week Saturday. So on April Fool's Day. And that if that weren't enough, 2 weeks later, we have the switch over from winter to summer gasoline. We'll talk about a little bit about that next week as prices inevitably will have to start to rise, like it or not.